Travis Reier and Charlie Potter of the BamaOnline.com staff with a Wednesday edition of Instant Analysis. And Charlie, as we put this together, wanted to talk about some key areas that will both be focused on Saturday night as the Crimson Tide really putting on a finishing touch on the game plan, installation, all those things for the Wisconsin Badgers. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball. Quarterback. We know that's the primary focal point for just about everybody. You think Jacob Coker starts the game?
I do. I think he gets the first series, and I mean, honestly, if he lights it up, I think he stays in. But if it's just a mediocre series, if it's a 3 and out and they send J.K. Scott on the field, I think we probably see Cooper Bateman that next series. Maybe. I mean, it could be either that or we wait till the second quarter. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to go.
What about a scripted type situation? That's what I'm thinking is if they're going to play two quarterbacks, I don't know if Nick Saban or Lane Kiffin's the type that's going to have the quick hook. But if it's scripted and they kind of just move into it, that's the way I could see it playing out, especially with a guy like Bateman. Because I'm thinking you're going into this game, if you're playing Jacob Coker, in large part it has to do with he's a fifth-year senior. Yep. You feel like he can handle the moment, the environment. It's going to be electric. You know that. And then you can kind of maybe ease in a guy like Bateman who hasn't played and possibly make it easier on him in doing so. But, yeah, it's really kind of the big unknown. Yeah. We're both sort of drawing conclusions on little things we've seen, a lot of things we've heard. So that's where all that's coming from. I'm interested, too, in the style of play of the offense. Mm-hmm. Is it going to be the pound and ground return to run it, throw it that we've seen from Alabama in the past? Or might they surprise us after all the tempo talk and how detrimental it was to them at the end of last year? Might they come out with a little pace?
I think just trying to usher in a new quarterback, I think we'll see a lot of Derrick Henry and a lot of him often. I think that helps guys. All I got to do is turn around and hand off to Derrick Henry. And that gets guys loose. It gets guys comfortable, especially in an environment like you said, AT&T Stadium. It's going to be loud. It's going to be unlike anything that a lot of these guys have seen before. And I think that's what we'll see initially. I don't think they're going to tilt their hand in the first game a lot. I think they could save tempo maybe for a team like Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Later in the season. I think it'll be pretty manila, especially just in this first game. But you never know. I mean, they
right.
could flip the script and go completely different than what we're anticipating.
It's the beauty of an opening game.
It is.
It's the mystery that you have the advantage of. With Wisconsin, offensively, I don't think there's a lot of mystery.
No.
Wisconsin, the running game is their brand. Mm-hmm. It's like the label on the Coca-Cola bottle. You know it when you see it.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure they quite have that advantage, whereas Alabama, the last time you saw them, they probably were throwing the ball too much.
Yeah.
So now they could possibly revert back to power football. So it's another intriguing area of this game that'll be a lot of fun to watch. And when you talk about running the football, right guard, I know Nick Saban on the SEC coaches media call today had some comments about that position and really the interior spots, I guess, in general.
Yeah, I mean, he said there are 4 guys up there that he thinks can play, and obviously it looks like Ross Pierschbacher's locked down that left guard position. I don't expect anybody else to start there or even really play time unless, unfortunately he gets hurt, which, you can never predict that. But I think we'll see probably Alphonse Taylor first, and then maybe just like we did in the season opener last year, see 2 guys at right guard with Bradley Bozeman coming in there. And one thing, though, that always stands out to me when Saban talks about the right guard position is he always mentions Bozeman as a center. Mm-hmm. So basically he has a backup plan for him, which doesn't necessarily, in my mind, bode well for Bozeman. It tells me that Shank he's just slowly wrapping up that role, and that
right.
they're going to slowly usher in Bozeman if they need to. Something happens to Ryan Kelly.
Yeah, but it's still important to be the swing guy.
Oh, it is.
I mean, because that tells me actually that if Pierschbacher goes out, Bozeman's probably the guy there. So if you're the top backup at both guard spots and the center spot, we've seen injuries at all 3 of those positions, well, 2 of them, I guess, in the last year. So, it could get him on the field quickly. You're right. I think it does speak to Taylor sort of nailing down that right guard position with the possibility of Bozeman seeing time as well. How about the receiver spots? Beyond Ardarius Stewart, do you have any real feel for this group? Mulaney, Foster, how that's going to play out?
Well, looking at the depth chart, Robert Foster and Calvin Ridley were the first team wide receivers, but I don't think we'll see Calvin Ridley out there first. I mean, I think we'll see plenty of Ridley, but I think Robert Foster will be out there. And just looking at practice today, you could tell that he had a little bit of a pep in his step. He was running really crisp routes, really quick. Making really quiet catches, and that just stood out. I mean, obviously, we're limited in what we see in practice, but Robert Foster was definitely something that caught my eye today. I think he'll be out there first, and in terms of the slot, it's sounding more and more like Richard Mullaney's the guy. Everything you hear.
I'm not convinced Black's ready.
No, I mean, he doesn't look like anything's limited him on the practice field, but just from what you hear, a lot of guys have a lot of high praise from Richard Mullaney. A lot of the sure-handed, the things that you expect to see from a guy in the slot.
And Black's biggest attribute are his feet. I mean, after the catch, he's quick. He can separate in space. Now, if you're still dealing with an ankle, that's a tough spot to play. That in corner, you got to think would be extremely tough. Moving to the defensive side of the ball, not a lot of mystery over there, I wouldn't say at this point. Based on the depth chart we received earlier in the week, it kind of looks like what we had seen during the early parts of fall camp. So that tells me they feel good. We've seen them with a lot of guys involved at corner in the last few years, but you didn't necessarily get the sense that that was a good thing. Kind of like quarterback this year. It's not because, regardless of what they say, that they feel like they have 4 or 5 that can play. They're trying to find one. Well, they got at least one in Marlon Humphrey to go along with Cyrus Jones, I think. But I think they feel good probably about a couple other guys too.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that shocked me was we saw a lot of slashes, which indicate oars on the offensive side of the ball, but there weren't any on defense. And especially, Marlon was up at the first-team corner, Minka was up the first-team star, and that's what we've seen for a while. I mean, it tells me, like you said, that they're confident in those guys, and those guys have been making plays. I was a little hesitant on Marlon just because of the pulled muscle that he had initially in fall camp. He was out for what seemed like a while, and now he's just come back and nailed down that spot.
Tells you that going into camp, they must have had a pretty good idea that they thought Marlon was going to be the guy at that spot, because you're right, it missed that much time in a competition, but then to come right back in and in just a matter of days seemingly nail that down, there must have been a premonition there that he was close to being able to get the job done. The safety spots for me are the biggest question marks still on this defense. I know that Eddie Jackson, Geno Smith are experienced guys. I need to see them make some plays. And with the pass rush this group should be able to get and the way that they should be able to play on the outside, got to think, between the two, what do you put a total interception at for them? Maybe 7, 8? Shouldn't that be kind of in the ballpark of where they should finish?
I mean, yeah. If you look at it, Alabama didn't really record any interceptions last year. I mean, Landon Collins and Cyrus Jones led the team to 3 each, and those are really low numbers. So I think between Geno Smith and Eddie Jackson, 7 and 8, that's a pretty fair range.
We'll put it at 7.5. We'll give you that hook. That hook is rusty sometimes. That's what I'm told. I don't know anything about the hook. But
yeah, I mean, those guys have proven to be solid in coverage. It looks like Eddie Jackson's back from his knee injury, which you could tell at times last season he wasn't as fast as what he was as a freshman. But he seems to be over that. And I mean, I think they can be pretty effective. It's essentially you're going to have what could be 6 corners on the field at the same time, and in terms of coverage, that's what you can only dream of as a coach. And I think they have to feel pretty good about that.
I think this is a game where we possibly see a lot of J.K. Scott, and that can actually be a very good thing. Believe it or not, when your punter is as good as J.K. Scott is and is impactful. But I also think we might see a lot of Adam Griffith. I could see some field goals for this offense, especially early in the season. He spoke with you guys here in the last day or so. What's the feeling you get as far as the back and kind of where he's at?
Well, he talked yesterday, and he still said he's not 100%, which with the back injury, you don't really expect him to be. You wish that he would be, but I mean, that's a lingering issue that's probably going to haunt him for a while. But he sounded confident. He's been working with J.K. Scott on his flexibility, because a lot of the times with the back injury, it affects your swing and how you follow through with it.
Rotation.
He's been working on that, because he said because of the back injury, he's been hooking things. He had hooked things to the left, and he said he's so confident that he feels good from 55 yards in. Which, I'm sure a lot of kickers can say that, but that's bold words for Adam Griffith, the guy that's been known to miss kicks around here.
Yeah, I don't think talent's ever been the issue with Adam. When you talk about getting the ball up and out quick and with authority, he's had that. It's just, like you said, whether it's because of injury or something else, consistency. And I think this entire season, they're going to really need consistency from his spot, because I see this team kicking a good bit more field goals than even probably a year ago. So you got a prediction for the game? What do you think?
You know, I don't think Wisconsin's going to be able to run the ball very well. Like you said, that's their bread and butter, and you know, coincidentally, that's Alabama's bread and butter on the defensive side of the ball. You know, I could see them, you know, getting a few scores, maybe 14 points, but I don't think anything more than that. And I think, you know, Alabama's going to come out and they're going to run the football, and that's going to loosen these quarterbacks up and these receivers up, and they're going to be able to score some points. I don't think they're going to, you know, blow the roof off like they did against Michigan, but I could see them scoring in the low 30s, the high 20s, and you know, just making it, you know, a pretty impressive, you know, score.
That's the feeling I get. I think the tough thing for Wisconsin is that offensively they're probably going to be on the long field all night because of J.K. Scott, and I think conversely Alabama might be on the short field a good bit, at least more than Wisconsin's going to be. So I kind of agree with you on the score in terms of a range of how it might go down and sort of the flow of the game. So safe travels over to the Metroplex, I guess they call it, and we look forward to doing this again in a week's time as Alabama will be preparing for that home opener. So we'll do that in a week's time. Good talking to you. For Charlie Potter, Travis Schreier at BamaOnline.com. Join us again soon for another edition of Instant Analysis.